Given that he is the most powerful and influential man on the planet, let's just have a quick look at what the president thought about last night's debate. I might have made this too loud. Here we go.
These are all things I've been working on, and then the campaign begins, and I think last night was very, very successful. We've gotten great reviews, great polls, great everything, and I had one 91% to 9. That's good. But no, it was an exciting night. A tremendous audience, I understand. They are bigger than they even thought. And it was certainly an exciting night. But I have to, this is my day job. I have to do this. This is very important.
91 to 9 on what? What's he talking about? But I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna have to put faith in the president of the United States. He is the president. His word is gospel. So I'm guessing that Biden got absolutely destroyed in this debate. The people, okay, top comment. The people most in favor of socialism will contribute the least amount to it. Okay. Los Angeles depends. Joe is having a rally today behind a Walmart by the dumpster with 3 rats. Yep, not looking good for Uncle Joe. Not that Uncle Joe, the other Uncle Joe. Okay, let's go in.
President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump.
I always like how everything comes back to ratings for Trump. He is obsessed with his ratings. I know that's because he's a narcissist and an egomaniac, and a lot of that's probably drawn from like issues with his parents. But like, it's literally the only thing he cares about. He's obsessed with ratings. Everything is about ratings.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate...
I think they actually muted the mics for at least for the opening and closing statements, so it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out.
The commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired.
She has to emphasize that. I was going to ask if you wanted to join me on a Discord server to watch the new Borat movie and a watch party later. When you mean later, do you mean later today? Or do you mean like later in a more extended sense? Because it's on Amazon Video, right? I don't have anything like Prime or anything. Yes, later today. No, I won't be able to. I appreciate you offering though. But yeah, no, I won't be able to watch it because I don't have whatever platform it's on.
Will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other,
okay,
for the American people to hear every word of what you
what time were you
have
thinking?
to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start, and we will begin with the fight.
We'll see how we get through this, and then I'll get back to you. 10 maybe a bit later. Okay, well, we'll see how we go with this, because I may not watch all of this, but I may not be up that late, to be honest, but let's see. We'll see what happens. But say, I appreciate the invite later today.
Against the coronavirus, President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's
like a fucking dialogue tree. I love it.
Worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone.
There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military.
Did they really
is going
name
to
it that?
distribute the vaccine.
Operation Warp
I
Speed.
can tell you from personal experience that I was
Operation
in the
Power
hospital. I
Eagle
had
was
it,
taken.
and I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem.
So in fact, a number of musicians who have like sort of put cease and desist orders on the use of their songs during his rallies and stuff. I wonder if the Roddenberry estate's going to have a go at him for that.
That's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular,
We all know that this
we're
is
now
bollocks,
making
so this is why I'm comfortable talking over him. What I'm interested in is, like, I'm actually a little bit tense about what Biden's going to do in response. Because I imagine he's about to take a massive shit on him.
We're rounding the corner. It's going away.
And how long have they been rounding the corner?
Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Bring it, Joe.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day, and there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the President's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the President thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan.
He looks like he's reading off a teleprompter, but he can't be. Or unless I suppose he might be, actually.
All the time. I would make
It's
sure
an opening
we
statement.
move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we
He's got to be
set up
seething
national standards
deadlift.
as to how to open
Itching
up
to dive in.
schools and open up businesses so they can be safe,
Vibrating.
and give them the wherewithal, the financial
The makeup's
resources
starting to be
able
shifted off.
do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most...
Yeah, can you imagine that? It's literally like probably the first time in like US history that, or indeed probably world history, where literally they had to like do Discord server rules on a debate.
serious journals in the whole world.
It would be amazing if we could have got Chud Logic to actually moderate this debate. Just literally starts like swearing and like telling people to shut the fuck up and stuff. That would have been pretty cool.
World said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well.
That's three
and we
companies.
have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics.
That's kind of like a Banana Republic statement. My general's counting on me. They don't know what I've got. Amazing. The military, exactly. Like, yeah, okay, so militaries are good for, like, logistics and stuff, but it's like, it's still not going to happen. It's literally like he wants his own goon squad, basically. Like, people he can just literally, one group of people he can literally point out and tell them where to go. Ignoring the fact that, like, it's just, even with the vast, like, force and capacity of the United States military, like, it's not going to be as simple as rolling into a town and giving everyone vaccines. There's going to be a lot of pushback. Interestingly, how many of his voters won't even take the vaccine? That's a question that's going to become incredibly important, regardless of if it's he's in charge when a vaccine arises or if Biden is in charge. The anti-vaxxers will scream, and the anti-vaxxers, I would suspect, majority support him.
Logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine, and we expect to have
Carpet bomb
100 million
virus.
vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last year. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
I don't think we're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've
Spoilers,
learned
Dyson.
and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me.
Look at that expression.
Many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster. Far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now. But it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said
It doesn't have to make sense. That's the thing. It just has to vaguely sound good and make him look good.
Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again,
well, I mean, that's the trick, isn't it? Because Deadlift, his voters just need to think it sounds smart. It doesn't have to make sense. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it is the exact same thing. Like we were talking earlier about, like debates and stuff, like online debates. It's the same thing. Everyone who agrees with Trump is not going to be swayed, and sort of the hardcore Biden headbangers, it's going to be the exact same thing. So in these sort of scenarios, they're ultimately only really talking to the undecideds. Like that's where the true measure of it is, at least as I understand it. Like there will be people who are like wavering Biden supporters, wavering Trump supporters, but ultimately, well, I suppose they are the undecideds, but you're not going to get anyone who's like already entrenched is going to flip because of this. And people don't care about policy. People don't have the time in their lives, most people, to spend time researching every issue, fact-checking everything that these people say. But one thing people really value, especially in politics, is strength, is the projection of strength, which is obviously a key component of like fascism, for example. It's the idea that like you need the strength of like a single figure, the strength of a nation, the body politic and that. That's how it goes. They want strength. People don't want empathy. They want someone to tell them it's going to be okay and that someone's going to fight for them. And that if you join me, you are a soldier. That's what Trump is basically trying to do. He wants to recruit soldiers. Now, a lot of them will basically be brown shirts. you know, stand ready, stand by. Is it stand down, stand by? That's basically ultimately who he's talking to. I do sometimes use big words I don't completely understand to sound more photosynthesis. That's a perfectly cromulent analysis, to be honest. Anthropologically speaking, that's entirely cromulent.
And I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about, don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
I say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice.
He didn't say that.
We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the...
Wait, what? We can't lock ourselves in the basement. This is the fucking whiny little bitch who, when there was protesters in DC, went to inspect his bunker.
The ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace.
Oh, there we go. We're getting into the Hunter Biden thing.
People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it
Biden's got a man cave.
disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, you know, this is dangerous.
What's he talking about?
And, you know, I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
Reminds me of how Boris Johnson said he would shake hands with... He had to shake hands with COVID. I didn't know he said that. I mean, I can imagine him saying that, but... He learned fuck all from having the virus. Yeah, that's true. And I mean... Like, you have dumb fucks like Lecture Fan talking about how impressive it was and things like that, but it's like, he literally has access to the best medical care on the planet. Like, that's literally it. And yeah, he doesn't have to learn anything. He survived. He doesn't care. And honestly, and this will sound really cold, but I'm going to say it anyway, if Melania had died, he probably wouldn't care. That would be he learned a lesson from it.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19. And
oh, also, by the way, like, he keeps saying about how people will recover. We still don't know what the long-term effects of this disease are on a person, even if they have recovered. You know, there's still suggestions, and again, don't quote me on this, I haven't done the research, I'm not President Trump. There's still the possibility that, like, people are going to, like, be living with, like, health complications for the rest of their lives. It might even have, like, compounding factors. So to just sort of brush it off and say, oh, well, they'll survive, it's like, okay, but what health care are they going to need? What state are they going to be in beyond recovery?
Pass it. Vice President Biden, I
Mike,
want to talk
hey, Mike, you're right.
about strategy, though.
Right, okay, anarcho-breadism. Let's have a look at this. Hey, Mike, it's good to see you. My virology lecture had COVID early on and he still has trouble breathing. Oh, that sucks. Kez has got it right now. They're doing a lot better, but it's like, holy shit, like, just talking to them the other night, you can just tell how rough it is, and yeah. Are you shitting yourself? I'm sorry, Libtard, are you triggered? Public toilets are socialists. Why should my taxes pay for someone else to take a shit? That's why I use private toilet for I thought with my own money. That's excellent. I mean, that's literally the thing. These people will eat their own shit just to trigger their libs. And hey, you can learn a lot from eating your own shit. Don't ask me how I know that.
You have
I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a
seconds.
question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it.
Oof. That's a great fucking zinger.
Folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he has never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me,
very
I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's
China's.
fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach.
Hello, is this the base department? Joe Biden must be reporting because goddamn. I didn't watch much of like the primaries and stuff, but obviously like I've been like aware of like how Joe's been over the sort of since he left, since the Obama administration ended, and there were periods where it looked genuinely like his brain had melted, like he was literally like a corpse. The fact that you could put on a tie was like the only real sign that he hadn't turned into a zombie. But then if you saw the town hall from last week or whatever, he was on fucking fire. And all that big, strong, manly man Donald Trump could do was just whine like a little baby. But Joe had really great answers. I remember like he really seemed to be like trying to reach out to people. The way he used his body language, like there was one point where he was talking about like some speech he'd given on the Senate floor back in the day, and like he stood up as if he was giving the Senate speech, and he turned his full attention to the question answer, and I thought that was really fucking epic the way he did that. He's clearly gone through like a lot of rehearsal in terms of approaching these things. He was charming. I mean, he's not the most charismatic person ever, but he's learned how to carry himself in a very profound way, and I think they've done a great job preparing him for these events. I was actually almost jaw-droppingly surprised by how good he was during that town hall. Whereas Trump literally just whines and whines. In fact, in some ways, it's impressive of how much of a little bitch Trump can be.
He said he was kidding when he said that. A lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed...
What? He was dancing on the streets of Chinatown. Is that from a musical or something?
He said, this is a terrible thing, you're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even.
True!
Because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did.
He is obsessed with China. Well, I mean, there are reasons to be, like, fixated on China. Like, you know, literally, like, they're utilising soft power across the globe, especially, like, around the Indian Ocean, even in Europe, and especially places like Africa. Like, they are rolling hard. But they're doing it, like, mainly through, like, trade negotiations and things like that. They're building up military strength. They're making good purchases on like deep water ports and things like that. So they are amassing like a great deal of power, and it's something we should honestly be focusing and talking about more. But one of the best things that's ever happened for China is Donald Trump becoming president, because he's completely like lost the respect of allies in like, well, previously countries that relied on the US so much, and he's just been a massive fucking distraction from what they're doing. So, yeah, there are reasons that someone, like, should be obsessed with China, I would say. Though perhaps obsessed isn't the best word. But obviously the reason he's fixated on it is just for PR purposes. Because it helps him with his xenophobic side of things, like, especially his most hardcore racist fans and that. And also it gives, again, it's the projection and illusion of strength. It's like I'm standing up to big bad Xi Jinping, and he looks like Winnie the Pooh.
I talked about a xenophobia.
You know what that means, right?
In a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handling
He thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's...
That's
Last
obvious.
Is that... Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the neighborhood, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you
This has to be done on like a local and state level, I think. I think this is a problem that people, when it comes to healthcare in the United States, they have an issue of like conceptualizing how big the country is, especially if like you're European like me. There's not been a federal response, at least not anything approaching a cohesive one. So like a lot of work's going to have to be done with governors. It's going to have to be done with like I don't know, whatever they have below that, state senators, state congress, town mayors and stuff, to try and actually like help these communities figure out how they're going to have to do these things on their own terms. It's one reason, like, you know, why we're having so many issues here with like the tier systems, the 3-tier system in England, the 5-tier system or whatever they're introducing in Scotland. I think like at some point genies come out of the bottles, and you know there needs to be like a more localized approach to this. So yeah, I mean, Joe's making sense. I mean, obviously I know there's a lot of people here who are like really, and some of them are actually quite liberal and like left leaning and that are really critical about the prospect of another complete lockdown in the UK. And the concerns about the economy, you know, and the impact on like mental health and stuff are all very valid. But a lot of it is because, you know, the scientists aren't perfect, but also like the legislatures keep fucking up and keep getting in the way and keep driving things based on PR, basically.
do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to
turn the lockdowns into an accelerationist project. Yeah, good idea, Dyson.
Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people.
Isn't New York doing like surprisingly well considering like the situation they're in, like the biggest city in the country and everyone's packed together and everything? Aren't they doing really well now?
All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the...
I know anecdotes are worthless, and obviously the context's different because we're in the UK. My brother's kids, they've had to be isolated because like one teacher got sick in their school, and now it's completely spread to everyone. Like not the students, thankfully, but a lot of the teachers. Although that sucks as well. Moderate can moderate me all she wants. She's a powerful woman who don't take shit. Dicey. I mean, I don't entirely disagree. I'm a bit confused why she's got like a jacket from the 1980s, but yeah, I get what you mean.
The schools, we have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a...
You should take Boogie's advice and save up your money.
massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse.
Probably saw that during the
abuse.
Depression, but okay.
We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening.
That's true.
And he wants to close
but
down. He'll close down the country if one person.
he's
in
not
our-
pushing
in
anything
our
approaching a cure yet.
massive bureaucracy
He's literally
says-
pinning everything on the fact that Pfizer and everyone can get their vaccines out quickly. That's literally his one hope. But as I say, there's no projections to support that. He also like the FDA is getting in the middle of it and all of that. But it's like he wants one killer solution. That's literally all he's banking on.
We should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but would they need resources to open? You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we can open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. So don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're
It's
gonna
not
sit there
that
in a
it can't be
cubicle
that
wrapped
expensive.
around with
Small businesses
plastic.
where I am doing it fine.
These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look
Vice
at what
President
New
Biden.
York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get...
Okay, so I've obviously got, like, again, I know nothing about what I'm fucking talking about, but just as like a flash thing. So assuming that you were watching this live and you got curious about that, like literally look at this curve. Like this is daily changes in new cases reported since the previous day. So this is obviously reporting up until yesterday. So yeah, I mean there is a slight sort of rise here, but I don't know if you can say that New York is a ghost town.
Get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when you
about-
say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you
Joe.
before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm
QAnon.
listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem.
I like how he mentions all swing states. Yeah, I mean, you know, he's making a play. Got to do what you got to do. He's a salesman.
But that's okay. He said this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what
I'm
this
not
thing
knocking
was.
him, I'm
Nobody
just
knew
insulting
where it
him
was
at every
coming from,
opportunity.
what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks.
This is one thing I find amazing about whenever I watch Trump give a speech, like a talk or a debate or anything, is the fact that I kind of like try and get in the zone. I try and put myself in the head of someone who be a Trump supporter, who shares the values that Trump appeals to. And I kind of just think, okay, this guy might be selling what I want in terms of policy, but Jesus Christ, what a fucking baby. Everything is everyone else's fault. It's always he's being attacked. I would still look at this guy and think, wow, what a fucking cuck. I can't believe I'm voting for this man.
Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words, this is no problem, this is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us. Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
the
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
Uh-oh.
You
Here we
have raised
go.
a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money. As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that, like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact,
I could fuck more women than you, Joe. I don't do it because they'd look bad. I could pick up more women in bars.
beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Don't tell me about Wall Street.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat you have?
Wait, what? Does anyone have any... What? Like, I'm just curious what sort of... What were these messages? Like, were they literally threatening to come around and kneecap someone or something? You're not going to put me on a pain, will you? US officials on Wednesday night accused Iran of targeting American voters with faked but menacing emails and warned that both Iran and Russia had obtained voter data that could be used to endanger the upcoming election. Swiss envoy in Tehran said it was baseless. Well, they would. The emails claim to be from a pro-Trump group called the Proud Boys, but evidence amounted that they're in fact of another hidden actor. US officials said it was Iran, a nation that has increasingly clashed with the president. Holy shit. It's funny they'd use the Proud Boys. I wonder why that is. The emails were engineered by someone working at the behest of the Iranian government, according to a US official who spoke on condition of anonymity because of the matter's sensitivity. The operation appeared to exploit a vulnerability in the Proud Boys online network, so they're actually hacking the Proud Boys. The message advised that the group was in possession of all of your information and instructed voters to change their party registration and cast their ballots for Trump. Jesus fucking Christ. You will vote for Trump on election day or we will come after you. Fuck me.
...2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge, I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election.
Have you seen that all gas no brakes bid from the Proud Boys rally? He literally interviewed a Russian op on camera. I have not. If you have a link to that, then I'd be very interested in seeing it, Mike.
That Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's thought a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess.
It's interesting that when Trump was pulled up, I think it was by Axios, about Russian soldiers putting like bounties on American soldiers' heads in the Middle East. Again, he sort of whined and prevaricated and refused to condemn them. Proud Boys rally in around 11-minute long part 2 with exclusive behind the scenes things. Is it this person? This is the Russian op on camera.
I am called to your purpose, Lord. Reveal your purpose to the Proud Boys. Use us to
It's
lift
an
up
unfortunate
this
placement
city,
of the
to save
arm
the
there.
people of this city. Don't let it die. Amen.
Oh, it's a shit.
Show some fucking motivation!
Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Let's go!
We're in Portland, Oregon, again.
Kyle didn't do anything wrong, man. Free Kyle. God bless you, brother. You're awesome.
If you make me look like a jackass, I'm going to come for you.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to probably beat the shit out of you. Never fuck with me.
God's sake. Okay, where's this woman? Are there any women there? Lol. Well, apparently there's Russian women there. Is it, okay. Mike, I need your help. Is it this next person?
And then all of a sudden this hand comes down and throws me to the ground.
They kept calling me Antifa Press, and I was like, I'm just a journalist. And then they're like, well, if you're not an Antifa journalist, you're still Arab.
All the people on the other side, BLM, Antifa, they're the ones with the problem.
Violent rhetoric. I think they want to cause anarchy.
Violent rhetoric for a guy who literally said he was going to beat this journalist up if he made him look bad.
Me and Biggs have gotten death threats. We don't condone the violence, but
Respect the law, respect order. They don't do that. So I'm not down with that.
I'm here today to pretty much protest domestic terrorism.
True patriots, we stand for freedom,
Protest
free
begins at
speech.
home.
We're proud of the Constitution, and we're proud that we're able to have this discourse.
Proud of your fucking boy. And this guy's a queer. No. You're going to cut that part, right?
Somewhere in the middle. Look for a grey suit. Oh, hang on. This must be it.
Are you a Proud Boy?
I'm proud girl. Я гордая девочка. So I think he will hug you, of course, because your show amazing.
Who?
Vladimir Putin.
He would hug me?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Because your show amazing. You're good. I like your hairstyle too. You too.
I like your suit.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Have a good day.
Now, if Antifa's a...
When Russia sends their people, they're not sending their best.
Says he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what
Protest domestic terrorism, but beat the shit out of people who make you look bad. Yep.
His buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything is going on.
Rudy knows how to relieve the pressure, though, if he's feeling stressed.
Here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties.
I will say that it kind of looks like there's like, I don't know if there's like a stand behind Joe Biden where he's literally like, if you look under his clothes, he's sort of tied to a stake or something that's holding him up because his body language is a bit stiff. Although, to be fair, Trump looks like he's melting, so, you know, he can't really criticise either. Although, look at me, I can't really criticise either.
To kill American soldiers in Afghanistan when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part, as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow.
Here we
the
go.
Mayor of Moscow's wife, and you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know, someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose, because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody.
The fuck is he talking about?
On
Pillows
Russia
and sheets.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's massively buddy-buddy with
I'll
Putin.
tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port.
Autocratic
I remember
crooks
that
stick
very
together.
well during your...
I kind of want to... I know this might be a derangement syndrome on my part, but my Pussy Riot video got taken down by YouTube. I'm not 100% sure why. I think it might have just been the FIFA World Cup footage I used, but Russia is a mafia state. It's a thug state. Fuck Putin.
Term during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from
I want to know what this bed sheets and pillows thing is.
Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family.
Article from The Atlantic from 2017. Why does Trump still refuse to criticise Putin? President not only won't denounce Russia, but he goes out of his way to avoid it, like when he thanked the Kremlin on Thursday for expelling US diplomats. What a fucking liar.
But what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond. 30 seconds.
Here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you
Get him,
a lot.
Joe. Body him.
Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it.
They've been under audit for like 500 years now.
Company is, but much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of...
I like your enthusiasm, Mike. I will have to say that I don't like Biden. I'm not as far to the left as a lot of people in the communities I move in, but like, I probably would have been a Bernie supporter, to be honest. Though I got to admit that the concessions he's made, Like, and in fact, he's running on one of the most progressive platforms I think there's ever been for a Democratic candidate. Has warmed me to Joe Biden quite a bit. But, and AOC made this really difficult. Well, she always makes this really difficult for me. But my personal mantra when it comes to any politician, regardless of their left, right, you know, whatever flavour they are, I basically treat them all as monsters. Even the ones I kind of admire, and then they have to prove themselves. That's how it should be. You shouldn't stand for anyone. And I'm not saying that like you're like a hardcore like stan or anything. I'm just saying that like my personal philosophy is that all of these people are ghouls.
Dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid.
But Biden is
Because
being
at
pretty
some
based.
point
I will
they
give you
think
that, Mike.
It's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So
I assume that he's carrying at least 7 inches in his pants.
I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
could release
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you.
I don't like him either, but I know his candidate has been relatively consistent on his views and policies, and yes, all politicians are monsters. Yeah, no, I mean that's a fair assessment as well. And I visit the Violence Against Women Act. He's been involved in some sketchy legislation, as I understand it. But generally, yeah, I mean, you know, I think you could probably make the argument he's definitely on the side of the angels. He's incorporating repubs into his admin, basically people who hate Trump and want more repub normalcy. Yeah, I'm wondering if though how disappointed those people are going to be. Like basically, like normalcy is not going to happen because even if Biden wins, you know, we're still going to be dealing with COVID. Even if there's a vaccine next year in 2022, the fallout's going to be there. A lot of changes are going to have to happen to the economy, especially if he starts to ramp up his initiatives for things like climate change, like he wants to like transition to environmental technologies. The normalcy will have gone. I don't think, you know, it's hopefully not going to be anywhere near as radical as the past few years have, but like the Republicans are not going to get a return to the old order, especially if the Senate flips, which as far as I'm aware, there seems to be like a substantial chance or an increasing chance that the Senate's going to go blue, which would be amazing. Didn't the IRS say there was nothing preventing Trump from releasing his tax returns, even if they are under it? Yes, I believe that's true. I remember hearing that. Real Stunt Panda, thank you for stopping by. I don't think you've been in before, but it's good to see you. You know how you can tell Trump is lying, his lips are moving? Yeah, I think that's a reasonable metric. I don't know if that's a controversial point to make, but yeah. I mean, the question is, especially things gone on, like, yeah, he's a massive fucking liar, but also I sometimes wonder if he's just unwell, like he's delusional. It's that sort of fine balance. It's sometimes difficult to get like a razor between those two.
I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions about all of this, but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them to the American people?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated because I have a lot of people in there.
In a way, he's actually helped us. We now know we can't just have social norms. We have to make illegal behaviour actually illegal. Yeah, I think I agree. You're sort of talking about like cultural norms, like essentially honour systems, which would make sense in the context of someone who has no honour. I've always wondered how many metric tons of coke Trump put up his nose yes, to make him this brutally incompetent. I think he's I think he's teetotal actually. I mean, admittedly that could just be for alcohol, but I literally just think he's just kind of unbalanced, like emotionally. Like it's all the confidence, all the bravado is just front more than anything else. This is the point I don't see many people making. He's had all election campaign, which is 2 years, and his presidency, which is 4 years, to release his returns. It makes no sense to me. It's because he's got shit to hide. That's literally it. But people won't care because he's, especially like the hardcore headbangers. It's because like he's such a successful businessman. Trump claims he's not on drugs, but he's clearly on Adderall. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. But again, it doesn't matter. Even if the tax returns came out and like it was absolutely horrendous, if it was like an avalanche of shit, the hardcore fans won't care. If anything, they would actually probably point to it as a sign of his genius. Because, and this might be controversial for me to say, but like, if I was in the position where like I was a billionaire and like I had access to like some of the best accountants in the world and things like that, and there was legal means to get around tax loopholes, I can't honestly sit here and say that I wouldn't do that. Like, you know, I like to think I'm a fairly moral person who like tries to stick to the values as much as possible. But if these loopholes in the tax system exist, and as I understand it, the US tax code is a fucking debacle, you're going to go there probably. But he rolls shit to the face. Trump is not a successful businessman. It turns out he not only owes $421 million personally, but in total he owes over $1 billion. Yeah, the thing is that like he's not a successful businessman, but he's a fairly effective salesman. And the thing he's always sold best is himself. That's why, for example, he was like had the success he did when he was appearing on The Apprentice and shit like that. He's always sold his brand very well, which obviously helps him prop up his image of being a successful businessman, you know. And again, obviously, like he has people who help him work around like things like taxation and accountancy and bankruptcy and stuff. Like he's a reasonably skilled con artist, basically. So you do have to give him some sort of perverted, grudging sort of props for that, I guess.
Deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal. It was all
everyone is out to get him. The IRS has a personal vendetta against him.
Settled until I decide to run for president.
The IRS drew a penis on my back in 4th grade.
I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly.
Right-wing victim complex, amen.
As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it, but I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. Okay. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on, folks.
So,
President Trump, and then I want to get to 2 questions to both of you.
Sure. I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong, because the kind of things that you've done. And
he prepaid taxes for less than $5 million, then he got a $73 million rebate. Jesus Christ, that's what the audit is about. Yeah, I can see why you might want to keep that from people. I'm the president, my people don't get to hate on me. I don't want to go Tim Pool with his Thanos analogy, but there's I might try and find... This is really fucking cringe, but whenever I've been listening to Trump talk recently, I don't know if any of you know much about like the lore of StarCraft 2. There's a scene from like, I think it is from the main game of StarCraft 2, where Arcturus Menks, the emperor of like humanity or whatever, he literally gives a press conference and he literally says like, you don't get, like, to the press, he literally says like, you don't get to talk to me this way. And it's literally, whenever I see him, I'm thinking of like an evil space emperor, which if Trump was able to declare himself God Emperor of the United States, then he definitely would. And again, dumb fucks like Lecturefan would support him. Freedom, Constitution loving Americans like Lecturefan.
That your family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in Iraq. millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
He's been a senator for like 800 years. Of course he has money.
Vice President Biden, there have been
They suffer long to us.
China and for a Ukrainian energy company that you were vice president. In retrospect,
all your base
belong
to us.
Relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing. No.
Panda, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Number one.
I don't know why I went blank
Number
there for a
two,
second.
the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government.
Quick, Shill. I don't remember seeing you here before. I'm sorry if you have been here before. Don't take it personally if I just don't remember you. But I have a YouTube channel as well where like past VODs from streams I've done you can be found. I stream normally Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. No, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. I'm probably going to try and do some more weekend streams. I tend to do a lot of like conversations and interviews and things like that, and there's some people from like the US and Canada that I'm hopefully going to be talking to, so weekend streams might be easier for that. But yeah, got some emotes on the go, well, ready to go at the moment, so if you want to sub, that's cool. If not, completely understand, but I just really appreciate the follow and I appreciate you being here.
To say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about?
It's funny because the first year of his term I actively avoided labelling him a crypto fash, but as time went on it really dawned on me just how deep his rhetoric goes. Yeah, well I mean like, the past 4 years have lasted for like at least 12 years it seems, but you know, that was obviously like the peak of the time when like right-wing content creation online was at its like full force, and you know there were memes that did the rounds like, oh, everyone you disagree with is a Nazi and shit like that. So I think there was a tendency for people to sort of try and hold off on using terms like fash and things like that, but literally like, you know, he fits the bill. You know, like he's not gone full fury yet, but you know he's in the pipeline, he's on the rails.
China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
But could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military.
Literally every child Trump has works for him except for Barron, and that's just because Barron's not old enough.
Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000.
Actually, I don't know about Tiffany Trump, but no one gives a shit about her.
A month.
Least of all Trump.
183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the Vice President respond to that quickly, and then I need to
dishonest.
get to a question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is, everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was.
He's never
It was
getting that
open to
money
do.
back.
It was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business,
Started a trade
I
war
then
with China,
decided
by
to
the
run
way.
for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money every
President Trump,
place he
thank you.
goes.
We do need to move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly.
China.
There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said, we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay, very quickly, and then
His
we're
son
going to move on
walked
to
out with
North
$1.5
Korea.
billion from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy,
True.
though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers'
Because China,
money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from
yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is? It's called China. China paid $28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers.
I've started a cryptocurrency called Trump Coin. It's bright orange, and when you buy it, you have to it's a peaceful process. China pays taxes to the US government. Does he mean tariffs? I don't know. To be honest, I don't think he knows.
Farmers are great farmers because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
My response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey.
There it is.
He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting
That's a really
badly.
good line.
If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making in the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. They're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is a
to talk about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I
President
got elected.
Let's talk
let's
about-
get off the subject of China. Let's talk around sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letter.
Just want to quickly show you this. Again, real-time fact-checking. Don't trust it too much. Trump steel tariffs bring job losses to swing state Michigan. So this was from this was like 12 days ago or whatever. 4 years later, Great Lakes Works, once amongst the state's largest steel plants, has shut down steel-making operations and put 1,250 workers out of a job. A year before the June layoffs, plant owner United States Steel called off a plan to invest $600 million in upgrades amid deteriorating market conditions. Yeah, he's fucking lying. Shouldn't be surprised, but, you know, it's still a meme.
With him, you've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile.
Foreign companies don't pay tariffs. The recipient of the product pays the tariffs, so the end user of the product pays the tax. Okay, cool, thank you. As I say, I will concede I'm completely ignorant on tax policy. Or, pretty much everything, actually. A bit after debates, Joe's going straight to a punching bag. The punching bag is called Cold. He has a Trump hairdo. He's a bad dude.
Test, and yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him.
Wait, did he just say that Barack Obama predicted a nuclear war with North Korea? And again, as I understand it, like, the Korean War didn't actually end. I think it's just, like, been on a ceasefire for, like, fucking 70 years or whatever.
Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not.
There hasn't been a nuclear war.
Right.
Trump
Look,
2020.
Instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away. Millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul. Millions of people would be dead right now.
President
we
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and
seconds.
I have a good
Thank
relationship.
you. Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration,
She's
when I went
great.
to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get that the Korean Peninsula should be a nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
Kristen, they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds, President.
They tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
got to
for
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it. And that's okay. You know what? North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good relationship
Trump,
with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot
The Hairy Leg song is awesome.
of questions to get to.
Not
Your
bad.
response.
We had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded.
Called it!
The rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not.
I think
meet
Joe
with
got
President
criticism
Obama
for that
is
point,
because
but
President Obama
it's
said,
true.
We're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
And
let's
it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk about
He left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President Trump, okay, we do
They
need to move on.
left me a mess. North Korea was a mess.
We
And
need
in
to
fact,
move
if
on
you
so that
remember
we
the
can get
first
to
2
all
or
of
3
other
months,
questions tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her.
My sister was an Army MP and she was stationed on the borderline. She said North Korea's soldiers would regularly fire pot shots around them, nowhere near them, but still scary. Holy shit. Again, like, yeah, that's terrible, but I'm not at all surprised.
Confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because
Bonding
Obamacare
over
is no
first
good.
in my chat.
But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time, and I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see.
You're not
I
going
think
to
we're
win
gonna
the House.
But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing
I'm tempted to make a
conditions.
simp
And one thing
account
very
for her
important,
Twitter just
we
for
have
yeah, do it by all
180
means.
million people out there that have great
Get rid of medical
private
insurance
healthcare.
companies and we'll save
Far
billions
more
per
than
year.
we're
That'll pay
talking
for
about with
universal
Obamacare.
health care. Yeah, that makes
Joe
sense.
Biden is going to terminate all of those
Like, you
policies.
literally spend
These are
more
people
on
that
your
love
healthcare
their
than
healthcare. People that have been successful,
any other country, as I
middle-income
understand it, and
people,
that your service is
been
fucking
successful.
awful.
They have 180 million plans, 180 million people.
One thing I've heard this idea before, though, that one issue you might have with healthcare in the United States is that it shouldn't necessarily be done federally. It should actually be done state by state. Because we have a similar thing here in the UK where, like, for example, we have NHS England, and then, like, the devolved government of, like, Scotland, for example, runs the National Health Service there under slightly different, like, their own conditions. They take the administration of it differently. So I've said before that, like, the best way to not only sell it to people as an idea, but also make it function as efficiently as possible, would be for the states to decide what form of Medicare for All would work. So rather than having a federal mandate.
Families. Under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine, he won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay,
Let me
Vice
respond.
President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled
It needs to be a federally
unconstitutional by
organised
the
system.
Supreme
We have all
Court?
these
You
state-based
have 2
systems
minutes
that are a
uninterrupted.
clusterfuck.
What I'm going to do is pass
As I say, like, I'm
Obamacare
just getting
with
that from
public
other
option.
sources, but
Become Biden care. The public option is an option that says that if you in fact do not have the wherewithal,
like maybe a federal
to
standard
qualify
that
for
then
Medicaid,
the states have
and
to
you do
organise.
not
I
have
don't
the
know.
wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes.
Look how Trump shrugged his shoulders and said, meh, Shakes should figure out COVID-19. That's a good point.
He's already cost the American people because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover.
Why doesn't my follower go up there?
10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's your response to that?
It's ridiculous. It's like saying that, we're... the idea that the fact that there's
been saying he released his healthcare plan in 2 weeks for a year and a half, a bit like his tax record.
Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right.
True.
Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some...
What's the bit you disagree on, Dicey? The right to affordable healthcare. Well, wouldn't that depend on if you were the one paying for it, though? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay, you think it should be healthcare. Yeah, okay, I get what you mean.
People an opportunity to have healthcare for
I don't know why it's so controversial to say that healthcare should be a right. I actually, again, I'm not as far left as some people I know, but I honestly think that housing should be a right. I would probably listen to someone if they had a substantial argument for decommodifying housing. Affordable means they still have to pay. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, that's a good point as well. I know it might sound like a bit I don't even want to say utopian, a bit perhaps naive to just say housing should be a right, but honestly, well, yeah, it should be a right.
What in God's name are you going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance.
Last stream, me and Kez were talking, because we were looking at the AOC Twitch stream, and Kez, we worked out, because we're both on various medications for chronic conditions, and Kez helped me work out what I would be paying in the US if I lived there, and I think, based on the medication I'm currently taking, I'd be paying £460 a month, which, surprise, surprise, I can't afford.
Your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice
He
president.
wasn't president
for
for
years, and
47 years,
it's not
and he
like it was
wasn't the
25 years
entirety
ago.
of the
It
House,
was
both the
3
House and
3
Senate.
quarters. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like he went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Penn.
I looked at this the other night. I don't know if you've seen this, Panda, but literally, this is terrifying to me, this statement. Hang on. I agree, UBI, healthcare, housing, food, civil services. Yeah, okay, I'm down with that.
Payment. So you go to the doctor, and then what happens? Do you just walk up and you say, I need help? And then they say, how does that work?
Yeah,
I can't even imagine that interaction without a credit card or some sort of cash payment.
I'm the other way around. You go to the doctor and you say, I have this problem, and then they prescribe you the medicine, and then you just go pick it up, and that's it. And then you go home and you Google how much it would have cost in America.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for me too. And that's how you get radicalized.
It's disgusting and disturbing and terrifying that the concept of being able to access healthcare without having to pay for it is so alien to Americans. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd.
Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it, and he goes to Pennsylvania, And he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way.
But somebody should ask the question.
You can ask
he goes for
Are you
a
liking
year.
how Ashley's handling it, Darcy?
We do have a number of topics we're
No,
going to
but
get
that's
to.
a big, that's a big question.
We're going to get to. We're going to get to.
It's the same thing with socialized
I have
medicine.
to respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Kristen, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroyed, and destroying your Social Security. And this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay, let's let Vice President Biden.
Damn, it's such a shame that Bernie Sanders is running against Trump.
Running against somebody else.
Yeah,
Running
there we go.
against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried to get rid of, he tried to hurt Social Security years ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move on.
Drugs are crazy expensive here too. Like, I was in hospital for almost 3 months. I was really, really sick. My organs were like, we're out. One of my medicines was $600 a bottle. Holy fuck. If I wasn't a partially disabled veteran, I would have gone broke. That, honestly, like, that is just completely... That is alien to me. Is like... And I say, NHS is not, like... I know sometimes Americans, like, hold the NHS up as, like, a representative example of the benefits of free healthcare. The NHS is not run well here. Compare it to things like the systems that Germany has, the systems that France has. I think Japan has the best healthcare system on the planet. The NHS is not run very well. Part of that is because there's been successive attempts by both Conservative and Labour governments to actually privatise as much of it as possible. The Labour government got obsessed with introducing artificial market conditions to try and improve it. But still, like, holy shit. I'm still so grateful for it if, like, literally there are conditions where you'd have to, like, spend $600 a bottle. Can't take it for granted, even though it's not the best.
Mr. President, I have to move on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
gonna
will
have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's move on to the next question very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market.
Fuck.
Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to move on,
401ks are through the roof.
We're going to move on.
Stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew it.
We're going to move on to the next question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House, because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't
Mega
want. It's
yachts
near
are a
the
human
election
right, Panda.
because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President,
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with you?
The bill that was passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high-crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
By the
I
way,
want to.
if I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue.
Our people's pockets. Notice he didn't say his pockets because he doesn't pay taxes.
Cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers.
Can I ask you a question, Panda? And if you're not comfortable answering this, then don't, by all means. But have you... well, obviously from your rhetoric, I tell you probably voting Biden. But were you always like a Democrat, or have you flipped or anything like that? Like, did you used to be a Trump supporter? I'm just curious because sometimes, like, I just want to gauge things just to know.
Because they have to balance their budget, and the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government a deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President.
The other reason I ask is because, like you said, you're a veteran, and I know, like, this is a weird way of like gauging it, but like, I'm friends with someone called a creator called Lady Raincloud, and she was a veteran as well, and she's often said, like, you know, she's often noted that like there aren't that many veterans who seem to like be vocally Democrats, so. I will vote for Republican if they have better policies. Yeah, I respect that, actually. I've always said that, like, for example, like, I don't have much in the way of, like, specific party loyalty. If a Conservative ran here on my values and the things I think are correct for, like, society, I would vote Conservative. It's unlikely to ever happen, but I respect that.
We are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. is not giving them any
wanted
of
to
the
call
money.
him a clown.
We are going to move on to
One
immigration,
thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to
reaction.
help
Oh,
our small
immigration. Here we
businesses
go. This is
by
going to be the good
raising
stuff.
the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very
we have
recently.
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
I think
$15
Destiny's
an hour.
made
Is
the
that
point
still
that
the case?
actually kind of agreeing with Trump that it should be a state-by-state thing because of the different costs and wages and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about a federal minimum wage.
Would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really
administration?
like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick
No
response,
one
Vice
should
President
work
Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to
It's
talk
an
about
old saw.
immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about family.
The way you
in
divide
this
up everything,
context. Mr.
your
President,
Senate and
the
everything is
administration
really,
separated
really
children
weird
from
to
their
to
parents
me.
at the border. At least 4,000
here we go.
kids. You've since reversed your zero tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels.
Wait, coyote. I presume that's like a nickname for something, or otherwise, again, is he just high or something? Coyotes. I don't know what that is.
And they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come
Coyote's
in
a person
legally,
that
and they
smuggles in
come
people.
through
Okay,
our
cool.
How will you
But
reunite
let me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
let me
families,
just tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages. And then they had a picture in a certain newspaper.
Yeah,
There was a
fuck
picture
them
of
for
these
that.
horrible cages. And they said, look at these cages.
This is such a dumb fuck conservative Republican argument. Like, they literally will pivot and say, oh, but Obama, Obama built these camps. And it's like, yeah, fuck him for that. But also it's like, okay, if you think they're so bad, why don't you get rid of them? Like, I never understood that.
President Trump built them. And then it was determined they were built. In 2014, that was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying.
Republicans
very
are
hard.
masters
But
of
a
what
lot of
about.
these
It's
kids
not
come
just
out without the
Republicans,
parents.
it's
They come over
conservatives.
through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525.
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with.
That's a great answer.
Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and
That's a
violates
great
every
fucking
notion of who we
response.
are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
How
to
did you
that?
change the
We
policy?
did not
They built the
separate
cages.
They,
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I
about
will say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds
We
and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
and
of
have
them
gotten
haven't been
such
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that.
Not only
Who
did
built
they
the
separate the
cages?
kids, they lost the documents that show.
President, the Obama administration did fail to deliver.
Oh, they lost
immigration
the
reform, which had
documents
been a
that show
key
the kids'
promise
parents are.
during the administration. It also presided over
Again, even if like you're a conservative who
deportations
agrees with the policy of what's happening on the border, just the rank incompetence should make you take pause.
as family detentions at the border before changing
But then, as you
course.
say,
So
lost.
why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented
based.
people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they
Saying
want to
someone
do
else
that
built a gun,
is
you
they
just
go
use
into
this
a country
very
they've
good
never
argument.
seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River and it's illegal. And you say, oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
Kristen, he had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wait,
Biden,
hang on. Trump just said that the cages were being that they're being well treated.
In fact, you had a family came across and they were arrested. They, in fact, were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum.
So blatantly obvious that Trump is incapable of seeing immigrants as cartel thugs, anything other than cartel thugs. Yeah, I mean, that's partly because, like, he's deeply racist and stupid, but also it will play well with, even if he wasn't that dumb, it would just play well with his base, the people he's actually appealing to. I think it's kind of telling, like, when he keeps talking about the crime rates in Democrat-run cities. I wonder if there's some dog whistling going on there.
Based on the following,
Can you hear the barking?
on the following premise, why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe. They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President
very,
Trump, let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move on.
But we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about
Let's
it
move
anymore.
on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this.
You have to... It's telling who the people who tend to focus on IQ are. Like, the quality and caliber of those people. Like, this is an appeal to race realists, basically.
Country.
Realists.
Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents...
I did actually know that, Panda. You probably don't know, but legally crossing the border isn't a felony, it's a misdemeanor. You shouldn't be put in jail. Yeah.
who feel they have no choice.
But this is the thing. These, it's like there's that slogan that conservatives don't like, which is "No one is illegal." That's the thing. Even if it wasn't a misdemeanor, these people are still criminals in their eyes by virtue of the fact of who they are and where they've come from.
But to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child, when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes sir, no sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in
He's not been president for 47
when
years.
he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators.
I thought Hillary Clinton was the one who called them super
that
predators.
down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look,
you can always trust the man who talks about himself in the third person as well.
Possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln.
The possible
nobody
exception
has
of
done
Lincoln.
What I've done. Criminal justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved it. Colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice President?
My response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is the guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs. And
was it the Central Park Five as well?
Our cities. This is a guy who, in the Central Park Five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people. He commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you do it? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this. But you were there just a short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response
Hadn't he
to
tried
that,
to run
and
for president in the past?
Well, I'll tell you what.
He did it as a
hope
gimmick.
He doesn't look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am. You know who he is. You know his character. You know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
questions. If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq,
falling back again.
Then he's a corrupt politician.
Right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe,
he didn't say that. What the fuck are you talking
politician.
about?
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
From hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please.
Because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the
Uncle Joe.
5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia, Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from
Hunter Biden is kind of based, actually.
contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time
Chad
I ever
Hunter.
heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as
that's the official slogan of Black Lives Matter.
All people. I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the
Bitch, you don't even have a great relationship with your own wife.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know. I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. every single one. He started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims.
Yeah, I picked up on there too, Dark, as well.
Everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were
Proud
on
Boys,
stage here, he said, I told him to stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a
No,
follow-up.
he made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did-
Yeah, you brought him up
Where
earlier.
did that- No. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm
I
saying-
didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since.
It's a
Abraham
rhetorical
Lincoln
flourish,
has
you
anybody
dumbass.
done what I've done for the black community. Now you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
Oh, God.
tens of thousands of black men mostly in jail.
All right, let me-
And you know
let me
what?
a- let me
they
ask
remember
Vice
it because
President
if you
Biden
look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about-
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President
I think
Biden, let me
African
give you a
American
chance to
support is
respond within
massively
this
in
context.
Biden's
Crime
favour.
bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change it since then, particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment.
It's a healthcare issue.
That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done because I think maybe the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to drug. But they were not in the crime bill.
But why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We say black now, you can be white and from Africa. I had a boss that would answer race questions with African American because he was from South Africa. He was white. Yeah, I mean, you're right, but it's like, it's it's what's been ingrained in the popular consciousness, though, isn't it? Like, because I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think one reason why African American became such a widespread used term was because it was about the extraction of sort of slaves from Africa and losing that connection to their heritage. So it sort of messes with the historic identity. But again, that's just something I've been told, that the usage has changed in America. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying, that's Panda.
A lot of it done. We released 38,000. We got 38,000 prisoners left from.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I just asked one question. Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Okay.
As I understand it, Nancy Pelosi has actually introduced a record amount of legislation through the House, but literally it dies in the Senate because McConnell won't actually put it to a vote. So obviously the flip side would have been the same for Obama if they didn't have the House, so the legislation would die. Why didn't you do it? The Conservatives in Congress at the time wouldn't let Obama do shit. Yeah. I'm not wild about Buttigieg, but I can't wait for AOC to run for president. I think I've gone back and forth on Buttigieg, to be honest. I don't know.
You got to talk them into it.
All right.
You got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
Like I
which
did
is
with criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got to get on to climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this.
I don't know a lot about Yang. I know his big thing was UBI. As one thing I understand is that his UBI might have been unworkable, or at least, again, I'm kind of pulling this out of my ass from like information I've heard like secondhand, but like it might have undermined things like Social Security. So I think there's like his vision of UBI may not actually have been that great, to be honest. I don't know. So I just don't know much about Yang.
Administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of...
I don't know, because like I spend way too much time on Twitter. I'm way too invested in like leftist communities, especially over there. The discourse about like electoralism has been cancerous as fuck. Like, yeah, I don't like Biden. There were better candidates, but yeah, it's harm reduction. Like, we're literally looking down the barrel of like emergent American fascism. You vote for the lesser of evils. And I actually kind of have contempt for people with values similar to mine, progressives, left-leaning people who refuse to take part in the process because they have sometimes even understandable issues with Joe Biden. But still, this is literally, in many circumstances, life or death. Like, I have to say this as like a queer person as well. Like, literally, I fear for my siblings in the United States. Like, Trump is an existential threat. Even on, like, beyond that as well, we're talking about climate change now. These people don't believe in it, and even when they do believe in it, they don't believe it's caused by human action, and they don't want to do anything about it. Like, literally, in this case, Republicans will destroy the planet. Base Chomsky, yeah.
Thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord.
Conservatism, and particularly Trump supporting, is a death cult.
It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have been.
I thought America was supposed to be like the leading country in the world. Like, aren't they the ones supposed to be? Like, aren't you supposed to be the ones setting the example? So he's bitching about China and India and Russia. It's like, well, surely you should be leading the way in dealing with these issues, rather than bitching about how bad the air quality is in Beijing.
It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen.
I think Flint, Michigan might disagree with that.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity.
Thank you.
We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit emissions, will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
Today came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his environmental plan, you know who developed it? AOC plus 3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing.
The squad is
climate.
pulling the strings.
They're all hopping through hoops for
Dance,
AOC
Joe,
plus
dance.
3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window,
What's he talking about?
This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. And many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot
And
more
you'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers. $100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan was endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good.
I know the best about climate. A lot of people don't realise that. Scientists don't know anything. I do. Beautiful, perfect, great. I seem to remember a clip of him saying that about when COVID was really starting to escalate. I seem to remember him saying the scientists were surprised by how much I knew. They were really impressed. I know so much about science.
Prevailing wages, $45-50 an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go.
This was something I always wondered about in climate arguments from conservatives and stuff. Even if you didn't believe the science behind it, or believe that it's actually happening, or that it's happening through human causes. Surely capitalism is supposed to be about innovation. So if there's a capacity to create a new energy market, which in turn would create new jobs, new sales opportunities, surely you, as a capitalist, as a conservative, should be behind an emergent industry. Now, obviously, the petrochemical billionaires who own the Republican Party won't, because it will impact their bottom line. But if you are like an honest-to-God true believer in capitalism, you should be encouraged by the prospect of new jobs, new businesses, new products and innovations being created by the challenges of climate change.
Go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-up.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive.
He does know a lot
Kills
about
all
wind.
the birds. It's very intermittent. Got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming
Yeah,
up,
you
if
called
you're
it,
a believer
Panda.
in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist
Solar.
that said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world.
Manufacturing is
it's
not
all
coming
a
back to
pipe
the United
dream.
States.
But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your
I have a fatter cock than you, Joe. I fucked your wife behind your back.
oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right,
Now-
let me
now we
let
have
me
to
have
ask
let
him
me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice,
Actually, just a question for you in chat. How do you guys feel about nuclear energy?
Vice President
I
Biden to
have
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the
Slap
matter
it on
is
the
it's
table.
flat lying.
Would you
Flat-
rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need.
I'm not sure about that, to
other
be honest. I think there are
industries
serious issues with
that
fracking.
transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money and doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then
Excuse me,
we have.
he was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said. No fracking and or oil on federal land.
Let me ask this
I
final
did.
question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled.
Just something from CNN fact check. So Biden falsely claims he never opposed. Fuck off, CNN. Falsely claims he never opposed fracking. So you said it on tape, Trump replied. Facts first. It's false that Biden never said he opposed fracking. In 2 Democratic primary debates, Biden made confusing remarks over fracking that his campaign had to clarify. In 2019, he said we would make sure it's eliminated when asked about the future and coal of fracking. In 2020, he said he opposed new fracking. Biden's written plan conversely never included a full ban on fracking or even new... Okay, so he did clarify that it's about public lands and waters, not ending all new fracking anywhere. Okay, yeah, so it's sort of... Yeah, he sort of stumbled on that one. Yeah, I ask because I'm actually pretty in favour of nuclear, but there are substantial issues. I think the phrase that some scientists use is low risk, high impact. So when something does go wrong, yeah, you get a Chernobyl, you get a Fukushima, something like that. But the chances of that actually happening are relatively low. Also, the thing is that like if you invest in creation of new plants, the technology improves, so it does become safer because obviously safety standards and the technology itself improve. Someone I know who actually works for our environment agency, so I've spoken to, even though they don't specialise in nuclear energy, but they do know some stuff about it. They've said that obviously one issue is that it takes a long time to set up nuclear power plants, and then it takes a long time to decommission them. So there is obviously a lot of cost and labour that goes into it. And as you say, Panda, obviously you've got to dispose of the waste. But overall, in terms of clean energy, it is like incredibly useful technology. It just needs to evolve. I think it's a stopgap. I think the focus, like ultimately, the goal should be on things like solar, wind, wave, and all of that. But I sometimes get disheartened when I see like the knee-jerk reaction against nuclear. I think it's a good thing to have in your pocket, at least. Figuratively. Why do I keep doing that?
Back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater the percentage gain than it was under, in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more.
I think if you run the numbers, literally like 98% of this debate is him complaining about other people.
Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. Okay. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All right.
And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute. Chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions, the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final question.
Would he close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the
falls.
oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement. because
Slap the dick on the table.
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the
Fucking
statement.
balls on
because
Joe.
it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do give it to solar and wind.
We
and
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to...
But I mean, like, again, like, yeah, I can't wait until cars go full electric and the oil barons just start seeping. Under capitalism, surely the oil barons should be the ones investing in the technology of the future. You know, diversify. Imagine if the number is 100 and it goes up by 10, and that's 10% increase. Now imagine if the number plummets to 10 and it goes up to 20, and that's 100% increase. It's still 80 less than it was. True.
Destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to
Learn to
respond,
code,
and I have to get to
basically.
the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he
final
gonna get
question
China
to both
to do
of
it?
you. No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question.
No,
We have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
Based.
All right, this is about
Fucking
leadership,
based.
gentlemen. And this
Get 'em to the
first
table,
question
Joe.
does
Wrestle
go to
them
you,
there.
President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute.
I can't believe how much, like, thirst there is in my chat for this woman. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just surprised.
Starting with you, Mr.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything.
No, he doesn't.
He will kill it. If he gets in,
Isn't it
you
on
will
an
have a
earners
depression
over
the likes of which you've
400,000?
never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy, we can deal with the systemic racism, and at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
I'll leave you all a freeze frame there. That was that didn't pop as much as the first debate, but that was still, I really liked that. As I say, like, especially when you compare him to how he's spoken in interviews the last few years and how he performed in the primary debates and that, Joe's really nailing it. And that last part there, like, it's pretty facile in a lot of ways. Like, it shouldn't be the most important thing, but there is something to be said for projecting your presence as a president. Being presidential should matter to people. You know, when you are running for something, when you're running for office, being able to project and make people envisage you as the president counts for something. Trump doesn't do that because he's a bull in a fucking china shop. But Biden's getting better at, like, making himself look respectable and selling this idea of unity. So yeah, that was a really great performance from Joe Biden. I'm genuinely surprised. Say, it might have been better memes if it was the same level of fucking childlike squabbling that we had in the first debate, but still.